Hello and welcome back to Scottish Independence Podcasts, and you will recognise our guest here. We've joked last time he's got his own chair. So lovely to have Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp back in the studio. Everything's changed since the last time we spoke to you. Lots of updates, I think. Obviously, the elections have happened since the last time we spoke to you, and we probably ought to acknowledge that your prediction was spot on, that we'd end up with 4 parts of the UK, 3 parts with a nationalist government and 1 heading that way. Let's start with the petition.
Yeah, basically, following the election, now the SNP wanted their single-party majority. They didn't get it. It was highly unlikely they were going to. But what we did get, and it might have surprised a few people, is the biggest ever, a record number of pro-independence MSPs re-elected on a manifesto promise of demanding a second independence referendum. So, as far as we're concerned, that's a cast iron mandate. In fact, as far as anybody's concerned who looks at it, who cares about democracy, that's a cast iron mandate. So what's happened in the past is when there has been mandates, nothing's been done. There's been no follow-up. There's just been a no, now is not the time, and not much has happened. And you could say I'm being a bit unfair there that the SNP did do something. They referred themselves to the Supreme Court as to whether or not they could do it or not. But yeah, let's just say nothing happened. That was never the way to approach this. So what we've said is, right, stuff it. We're going to go out there and we're going to noise up the Unionist MPs, the Prime Minister, everybody, and we're going to say you can't ignore this with impunity. And we're going to let the Scottish people know that they have voted. They have voted record majority of pro-independence MPs asking for an independence referendum, and if you don't get one, you should be angry. And that's a key thing here, that we're not actually expecting Keir Starmer to suddenly change his mind and go, yeah, you can have a referendum, you can have the powers, you just choose the date and on you go. We're not expecting that. That would be a nice outcome. And he might be softening up a little bit because we've sent him 15,000 emails telling him to agree to a referendum over the last 3 weeks, which we got a whole load of opening alerts on them as well. So I know it's if nothing else, it's annoyed them, but it certainly alerted them to the fact that the feeling's quite strong in Scotland. So basically, what we're saying in this petition is an action petition. So it's a piece of software we've added to our website. And what it does is you sign the petition. The petition then automatically, having got your postcode, finds out who your MSP and your MP is and sends them an email from you saying, look, the people have voted. We want a referendum. This is about democracy, not whether you support independence or not. And by the way, 3/4 of the United Kingdom is asking for clarity. You cannot stand against this. And it also sends an email. Every single signature sends an email to Keir Starmer as well. And so far, as we're speaking, I think 14,670 people have signed the petition.
Wow.
So, which is double what we got our last time. And our target was 10. And some people have said, oh, why don't 1 million people sign this petition? Well, it's never going to happen. That's not how petitions work. But 10,000 was our target, normally because if you sign a Westminster parliamentary petition, that is the amount that it takes for there to actually be a discussion, for them to actually respond to it. So we're expecting Starmer has to respond to this. We're going to get in touch and say, sorry, you've got 15,000 emails. You need to give us a response. So essentially we've sent 128,000 emails to elected representatives on behalf of the petitioners, and some key MPs from Labour and from Reform. So Malcolm Alford, for instance, has had 2,000 emails. And I'm pretty sure they hadn't quite figured out how to put autoresponders on by the time he'd actually started arriving with the newbies from Reform.
That's a win in itself.
Yeah, about and 170 English people have signed as well, and that's sent the same email to their MP. And Welsh ones as well. So it's not just Scottish
very good.
Located ones that are getting it as well. About 170 English and Welsh MPs have also been contacted. And so basically, we've had a few donations from the people who signed as well, and that's allowed us to start a major multimedia campaign to get this message in front of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. And so basically, yeah, we're hoping that this will be part of the pressure, one small piece of the pressure that all the three Celtic leaders in particular demanding clarity on how the union evolves, changes, ends, etc. simultaneously can't be said no to. You can't say now is not the time when the 3/4 of the UK demanding it, right? So that's part of. So this is part of that push that we predicted way back last year when we talked about our route to independence. When we launched the new path to independence, we said this is going to happen probably well over a year in advance. And Plaid were nowhere in the polls at the time. But the reason we thought Plaid would win is because we're just looking at the situation and saying they're where Scotland was 15 years ago. The conditions are right for Plaid to really fly because Labour have reached that point where so people say in Scotland that they didn't leave Labour, that Labour left them. And we're looking at Wales and going, Labour's left its members. And therefore there's a choice between Reform and Plaid, and we reckon Plaid would win. And we were right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it still open, the petition? Can
the
still
petition's
sign?
still open. It'll be open probably for a few more months because there's going to be a lot of activity around this. I mean, so we're at 14,670. We're sending out an email to our supporters database, which is, I need to look up how many it is, but it's about 30, I'm going to guess 34,000, 35,000 people are subscribed now to receive emails, alerts about our events and our days of action, etc. But since we launched the petition, that's gone up 7,000.
Wow.
So it might be a bit more than that. So we're kind of growing exponentially.
Really
and on top of that, our Facebook page has reached 152,000 followers. Which, other than the SNP, is the biggest politically active page in Scotland. If you add all the unionist parties together, they come to about half of their Scottish Facebook pages of what we've got. So we're already hitting more than 10 million views on our content across all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc. this year already. So we've got to a point, we're so big now that people can't ignore us, and people are getting the message over and over again. Now, people do tend to fight with us a little bit, but that's okay. It's engagement. And so basically, that's been doing very well. We're about to have a big push right now to get it over 15,000. And we've also got a day of action around this planned for July the 4th in Prestwick. Which we're just about to be announced. We haven't told anybody that yet, but we're going to Prestwick with a special leaflet. We're going to put it through the doors and try and get people in Prestwick to sign the petition. We've got a big media stunt that we're going to be doing there. And
tell us about that one.
We must come down.
Tell you about it, otherwise it won't work.
We'll come down. We'll just come down.
You can be there and film it. It'll be very photogenic. Let's just say. So you should film it.
That's great, and it's quite a telling day to do it on, isn't it? July the 4th.
Independence Day.
I got a response back from my MP, who is Patricia Ferguson. I think she's your MP as well. So maybe you got it too. Long. I thought, God, so long. It's so long. You think, oh God, I haven't got the effort. I haven't made the effort to read that, which might be why you do that. You don't want people to read it. Yeah, she got me. And then I thought, no, come on, just read it. So I did. And I mean, it just didn't, some of the things I could have thought, I thought, well, in her position, I would say that. And in her position, I would say that. And one of the things was, in 2014, there was consensus across all the political spectrum in Scotland, parties, to have a referendum. And that is no such consensus exists now. And I'm going, well, that's right. It's because the unionists think you'll lose. That's why there's no consensus about it. And then she does that. What I would have thought as well, picks up on the fact that Mr. Swinney went with, we need a majority, we have a majority, that's a basis for a referendum. She says, well, you didn't get a majority, so you haven't got a basis.
To be fair to John, he didn't actually say the only way to get a referendum is to give the SNP a majority. He did say that it was the only way to guarantee it because it had the weight of legal precedent. But when questioned, I've seen video after video of SNP spokespeople, Angus Robertson as well, who was the Constitutional Secretary before he lost his seat, actually was asked specifically that question on camera, and he said, no, it's not. No. A majority between us and the Greens also is a mandate that should not be ignored, but we think there's legal precedent on now whether there is or not. Now, would I have bet everything on the SNP getting a majority? No. If I was leader of the SNP, would I have done? Possibly, I don't know. But they've got their own agenda, which is doing what's best for Scotland in terms of running the country, and simultaneously trying to do what they can for independence. I think that those two things get in the way of one another, and that's why Believe in Scotland exists, to be the non-political party aligned campaign and to help the grassroots. And it seems to be working. It seems to be growing and growing, and certainly our numbers are going up and up and up.
Excellent. That is so good to hear. I mean, I haven't had any responses, I have to say, to any of the ones that went from my, Murdo Fraser, I thought he would have responded at the very least. But
he didn't respond. I know Murdo Fraser's had over 2,000 emails from people, but he didn't respond to the last one either. I think that's their tactic. I mean, we've now had he's now had something like probably 3,800 emails from 2 petitions, and he's not responded to a single one of them. So a geographically targeted local Facebook ad explaining how he's ignored 3,800 of his constituents emailing him might actually be something we could do at some point. So there's more to this coming on the background of it. But Prestwick on Saturday, July the 4th. Anybody wants to come and join us, please do. There'll be leafleting, there'll be coffee and cakes, some litter picking, and a big stunt for local media as well, and for the internet. There's local days of action where we go to a town and we blitz a town. We try and get almost every house in the entire town leafleted in one day. We put stalls up in the high streets, and when we did Moffat, we had about 50 Yes Bikers drive through the town, etc. And we sort of basically have a big campaign day in one town. And then we've got national days of action where we've got the 143 local Yes groups, local and national Yes groups that are affiliated to us. We ask them all to do something all on the same day, and we're planning a couple of those big ones before the end of the year as well. But there'll be probably a dozen local campaign days, but this is the first local campaign day, and it'll be about, do you back Scotland's right to actually decide Scotland's future?
Brilliant. Well, we've covered a couple of them already, and they're always really good fun. So we'd be delighted, I think, to come along and do that one as well. Especially now you've whetted our appetite by teasing us with what's going to come.
So this morning I was having a reread through of it's a long article on the Believe in Scotland website, Scotland's new path to independence. So I was going to read that.
Yes.
And I got as far as, well, I have read all of it. That's a bit of an in-joke, Gordon, because John and I have been having conversations about attention spans, and actually a bit more seriously, attention spans on social media platforms. Which, if you don't get something over within the first 3 seconds, you've lost a lot of page. Anyway, I've got as far as momentum points, and there's a really good image that you've got there, which is a bit of a summary of the nuts and bolts of the plan with some. So I think we've got that one, haven't we? I know it's a bit difficult to read for folk watching the video, but you can always go on the website and look at it in more detail. Do you want to kind of tell us what's happening there?
So in terms of the predictions we made, so we did this last year, and we updated it since. So all the blue stuff there is ticked boxes when we updated it just after the election. But we actually presented all of this at Bute House to the First Minister, Angus Robertson, and Deputy Leader Keith Brown, a delegation from Believe in Scotland went in, and we said, look, we've been working on this. And, this is what we think the way to independence is. Now, that doesn't mean that they've agreed with all of this, but certainly for the first 3/4 of it, we appear to be aligned, and their actions are very much aligned. And since then, they've signed the agreement to work with us towards independence, and obviously got behind our big march and rally in Edinburgh, which is a huge success. So where we are now, if you look at May 2026, Believe in Scotland launches its right to choose campaign. We've done that. It's I wouldn't say it's a big success because it's an ongoing success. It's a big start. Certainly beating the numbers that we thought we were going to get initially. So let's hope it can keep on driving forward. I believe in Scotland and the Scottish Greens signed the agreement, the same one as we have with the SNP, verbally agreed that we're going to do that. We just haven't been able to get, they've got 2 leaders, so it's more difficult to get them in the same place to actually get it signed. So hopefully we'll get that done soon. And the other one, which is May, was the Scottish Government seeks to force a second referendum. Now, actually, funnily enough, they haven't done that yet. The official letter to the First Minister, to the Prime Minister, saying give us the powers, hasn't gone as far as I'm aware. But there was an instant. It took about 12 minutes for Downing Street to diss it, but it was an unnamed spokesperson from Downing Street. So the Prime Minister has not yet said that, but the First Minister and the Prime Minister agreed to meet and to have independence and a referendum on the agenda. And that hasn't happened yet. And if it doesn't happen soon, Starmer might not be the Prime Minister. But today, whilst we're recording this, is the day that they're voting in the 3 important by-elections. I think the SNP are going to win one, and who knows, Reform might sneak one. And if that happens, then Labour will be in complete chaos.
Yes.
So I think Starmer might be quite pleased, but other than that, I don't know.
Because the other thing that's so different about our situation now is that it's not just Scotland, it's Northern Ireland and it's Wales, that all in different ways are looking to change the relationship with the UK. So is there power in getting those 3 acting together, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. It fundamentally changes the constitutional question, because you can actually say, oh, it's just Scotland, it's just the rebellious Scots again, they've had a referendum, etc., etc. And that kind of works. That's some sort of, there's some resonance to that, especially in England, and especially with Unionists. But if the First Ministers of Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and also the Taoiseach of Ireland, are all saying at the same time, look, we need to sort this out. We need to understand what the processes are for changing the UK, for leaving the UK, for unification in Ireland, etc. That becomes a totally different question. And it's mind-boggling to actually imagine the Prime Minister of the UK not having to respond to that. I think his own press would turn on him, which of course is kind of what we're planning, and that's why we've got the letter actually demanding exactly that in our petition as well. So it fundamentally changes it from a Scotland-only issue to a UK-wide issue. But remember that we've got a British nationalist government looking to take over in England, possibly at the next general election. In fact, I've said that as my prediction. I don't see it changing. Right, I see it getting worse, frankly, because the only way to stop Reform is for the Conservatives to become worse than Reform, or to merge with Reform. Right, I don't see Labour standing a chance of actually turning this around from where we are, and that's looking at trends in social media. That's looking at how that. We're talking about attention spans before. That to get attention, you need to shock. You need to trigger emotions. And what triggers emotions more? Negativity, poison, not messages of love and hope. Do you know what I mean? So bad news travels around the world 8 times faster than good news, etc. And that is driving public opinion in directions which mean it's not going to get any better.
Exactly.
This is it. It's downhill from this point onwards. And I think that in a economy with so much inequality, it's just going to lend itself to the right. That's why the right are winning.
Exactly.
Social media is like cigarettes 50 years ago. It was part of society. Everybody was doing it. People got their instant hit. They felt good, etc., etc. Decades down the line, the poison hits, and we realize it was a bad idea. Social media still has those benefits. But now we're beginning to realize that it's killing democracy, it's killing society, and it's killing the balance between right and left that's actually kept society functioning for so long.
That's very interesting. I mean, we've got the sort of couple of examples. We've had the election, the first debate in Holyrood, and it includes the the demand for powers to hold an election, a referendum rather, again, and within whatever it was it 6 minutes, 10 minutes? There
12,
was
I think.
12 minutes. So we've already mentioned that response saying, "No, you're not on your bike," kind of stuff. Well, what I saw, I think a day or two later from that, was Michelle O'Neill, so First Minister, Northern Ireland, Sinn Féin, and it was a press do, and she must have got asked. I don't know if she got asked specifically about that, but she raised it, and she sort of was commenting. She said, "Well, there's just been an election in Holyrood, and a big majority of independents voting. They've immediately passed a motion, to get powers transferred back up." And she just said, within 12 minutes there was a response, and she stood there and she said, "That's not democratic. That isn't kind of respecting the wishes of the Scottish people who've just voted in that parliament." And I saw that, and it had quite a strong effect on me emotionally, because it's a bit like somewhere, oh, there's someone else, you're not alone, and there's someone else who's got a bit of standing. And I mean, she's got a lot of standing, and she's very impressive. And there she is saying that, and that in itself is a bit of another tipping point, isn't it?
I think so, and it's part of it. It's another jigsaw building that big picture of people actually realizing, hold on a second, we thought we were in a voluntary union here, because in order to move to a de facto referendum, which I've always said is the most likely route, I've always thought that it's going to be incredibly difficult to actually force a referendum. John Swinney thinks he can force a referendum. Now that we've got this Celtic exit process happening, there's now a chance that he will be able to force a referendum, and good luck to him, because we can easily win a referendum. It's a little bit more difficult to win a de facto referendum at a general election, because then you have to ask everybody to vote for a single political party, and you've got to get everybody else not to stand candidates against them, and then you've got to get that party to say the right things, etc., etc. And there's still party political divisiveness about it.
We've got an image here which illustrates that point quite nicely. And this comes from Persuasion UK survey that took place the week before the election. And what this shows is of the people who voted for each of these different parties, the top line was how many of them would vote yes. And so you've got 18% of Labour, 23% of the Lib Dems, 11% of Reform say they're going to vote yes. So those are the ones who, exactly what you've just said, if it's a referendum, they're going to vote yes. If it's a de facto, they've got to choose not to vote for the party they want to vote for in order to vote yes.
Unless we convince the SNP to stand all their candidates mixed in with some other candidates in the movement under a label like Yes Scotland or Believe in Scotland, in which case you might get them all to vote for it if it's really that clear that it's definitely a de facto referendum. So, do I think I can convince the SNP to do that? Probably not, but that's what I would do, right? So, and that is the way. But the thing is, when you run a de facto referendum, you win in a de facto referendum not on votes but on seats. So a majority of seats is definitely winnable. But at some point, you're going to have to prove it is the settled will of the Scottish people. So you're still going to need a referendum at some point. But a de facto referendum, what it does is you could say, so and I'm sure your watchers know about our plan for a Scottish citizens convention, where we sort of capture the hopes and dreams of the Scottish people, actually ask them, what sort of country do you want to create? Knowing full well that you can't create it without the powers of independence, right? And that then becomes the manifesto for independence, because you're engaging 15-20% of your population in the discussion at that point, and you win if you can engage that many people, right? So basically what we would say then is that you have a de facto referendum, you win almost all the seats in Scotland, you then declare that we're beginning negotiations on independence. You then take your MPs out of Westminster, having said you're going to do it in advance. You can't do it if you haven't said you're going to do it. If you stand, if you're elected on the basis of standing up for Scotland and then withdraw from, you've broken your electoral promise. You've got to say we're not going to take our seats if we win, right? So you then come back to Scotland, you join the MPs to the Scottish Citizens Convention, and now you've got a sovereign body because the Scottish people are sovereign and their elected MPs are there. you know, and they can start negotiations. So they can't turn and go, oh, the Scottish Parliament hasn't had the power devolved to it to negotiate for independence. No, it hasn't, because it's a creature of Westminster. But the people are sovereign, therefore this body does. And that's how we see getting round it.
Yeah.
And it's generally accepted that a majority of seats in Westminster, and it's never been argued against, and the Supreme Court hasn't ruled against it, because Westminster is competent on the Constitution. So if you win on that argument in Westminster, you have actually triggered the conditions. So I do think there'd have to be a referendum on the final deal, but it's about beginning the deal negotiations, beginning and you'd also start doing things like preparing a central bank, preparing, you know, how you're going to run your own grid, all these sort of things.
Yeah.
And so basically that's what I see as the way we're probably going to have to do it. But the Scottish people won't vote yes in that until we do a hell of a lot of work between now and then. And that's what the Scottish Citizens Convention is about. That's what this campaign's all about, is making sure that people are beginning to realise that it's not an easy route to they'll just at some point give us a referendum and then we can sort this out, etc. I don't need to think about it. No, you need to think about it right now, especially if you're an independent supporter. You need to get off your backside. And, you know, we're a movement. And if you're not moving, if you're sitting down just being, oh, nothing will work, I don't know why I'm signing this petition, there's no point to it, etc., etc. Oh, why do we march and rally? Oh, it doesn't win votes, etc. Why do we this? And, you know, we're doing 1,000 things, and you say every single individual one isn't doing something. Well, actually, it's all adding up. It's another pixel in the big picture. And movements die if they don't keep moving. And that's what Believe in Scotland has done since 2019. We've been the movement behind the momentum, behind the movement. And people just keep on sitting there going, oh, I don't know, the SNP aren't doing anything, etc., etc. And it just annoys the hell out of me. So we've all got to get together and actually do something. We've got to go do these work days, sign petitions, do something.
We've got some evidence that it is working, because I don't know if you spotted something that Marlene spotted on Laura Koonsberg, and she was interviewing Al Carnes, who I think is is he Defence Secretary?
He was a Defence Minister, and he resigned just after Healy resigned as the Defence Secretary. Right. So it was about days after he'd resigned. Well,
here's the
He's Scottish, by the way. I'll just say he's a Labour MP for Birmingham Selly Oak, but he's born in Aberdeen.
But he's a former soldier guy. Is that the one?
Oh yeah, yes, he's a very highly decorated colonel in the Royal Marines. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, we'll play this, and you'll take some comfort from this.
So if Andy Burnham wins, there should be a contest. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that there should be a policy debate about how the future of this country will unfold over the next 3 years. Because if we don't do that, we risk having a far-right party in government by 2029, 2030, and the risk is you have Scottish independence by 2031. And that's my biggest concern, that the social division that we're seeing now, race, religion, being sown in amongst our communities, will then expose a national division, and in 5 years' time, hence, we may end up with Scottish independence as 16% poll swing.
I hadn't seen that. I'd be more confident in his prediction if he actually knew when the general election was going to be.
Why is that? The general elections?
He was in the video there. He was saying it's either going to be the general election in 2029. 2030.
Okay, right.
So, I think he just panicked at the thought of the onslaught.
He panicked being faced by Laura Koonsberg. I think that's what it was.
You kind of have to move the debate on, though, we kind of have to, from, oh my God, this is a terrible thing that we should all be afraid of, from thinking, well, instead of seeing Scotland moving as a threat, what about thinking this might be better for all of us? You know, there might be advantages in it, and actually agreeing between us as adults that this is the direction of travel. So instead of risking another last minute chaos like we had with Brexit, what if we actually start discussing it? And to me, it's a bit like a divorce. Do you want a really acrimonious divorce where you just end up fighting over the dog for the next 20 years? Or, we could actually come out of this being friends, living next door to each other, whatever it is. And that, they have to start from realizing something's happening. So that dawning on him is a good start, but we have to get that debate moved on, I think.
Yeah, well, after 2014, there was a lot of people interviewed, like the governor of the Bank of England, who's now the Canadian Prime Minister, was asked, so what would have happened? And he was, of course we'd have intervened to stabilise everything and make sure there was cordial arrangements, etc. The truth of the matter is, our economy and England's economy, Ireland's and Wales' economies are interlinked. They're to actually become independent without recognising the interconnectivity in the modern world, not just with us, but with the rest of Europe, just doesn't make sense. And that's what's different between Scottish independence, Welsh potential independence in the future, and Irish unity, is that we need to consider that up front, because Brexit was just a stupid knee-jerk reaction. It was just the beginning of the UK's slide to the right. And to distrust of foreigners being the sort of basic bit of that. But what we're looking at after independence, I think, is, it's strange to say, but also I know you guys are off to the European Parliament, but it's like a mini European Union afterwards, where I call it a Council of the Isles. I know we already have that, but call it a Council of the Isles, but involving Ireland. Ireland as one, Scotland, Wales, England, all working together as to how we make the British Isles work socially, economically, and environmentally together, is something that would be far, far better than the arrangement we have right now. It's not this is independence so that we can make decisions that are aligned to the well-beings of our nations, not some sort of hatred or, because we're just not able to do that right now, because Westminster is A, going down a different route, and B, most people in the United Kingdom live near London. Ipso facto, you do not win elections unless you prioritise their needs over the people in Scotland, over the people in Wales, over the people in the northeast of England. Right? And it's a dysfunctional system that needs to change. So, I think, there's real opportunities afterwards for friendship and partnership, which will be far better than it is right now.
Definitely. We've all got friends and family in England. It's not the English people we want. It's just that measure of protection that you have by having control over your own world and not being subject to the coercive control that comes out of a few hardline right-wing people down the road.
Well, we will have to put immigration controls on English people, though, because I think about 10 to 15 million of them will want to move to Scotland after the
I think we will.
Plus, from all we hear, quite a lot of the population of Boston have now decided that they're going to come over as well.
The Tartan Army do crowd. Yes.
While we're finishing up talking about petitions there, have you noticed the Westminster petition that's been launched, which is a bit scary? I Googled just to look up your petition the other day, just to refresh my memory of what it said. And when one of the second option that came up on Google was that there's a Westminster petition which has been launched, which is hold a referendum on abolishing the Scottish Parliament and government. So
let's hope that that's stupid.
That's only had 1,000 signatures. Yeah.
I did have a look to find out if I could find out who it's created.
Georgina Sparrow.
I couldn't find who that is.
No,
but I kind of started off thinking she's probably a Reform UK person, but actually that may well not be the case. But anyway, it's only got 1,248 signatures, and not mine so far.
But that, I mean, it is, with any luck, it's just going to fizzle away. But the point is that if you stick a couple of zeros on that, that's the reality of our situation. Our Parliament could be removed because enough people in Westminster vote for it. And we can only ever be outvoted when we've only got, even if we had all 56 Scottish seats.
What's funny about that, the wording of that, it's sort of one of its reasons for doing this is because there's just been a Scottish election and the SNP came up with 57, I think it says 57% of the seats, or but only 40% of the votes. So that's
an
really
ironic thing in
And
there.
I went, wow, do you really realise what you're saying with that? Really, it's funny what people
I'm going to
do.
say that the Labour have 50% of the seats plus on something like 33%.
30-odd percent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So our system's better than yours, is what you're actually saying. Yeah, it's more balanced. Yeah, it's. I think reform are a real danger to the Parliament, to the powers of the Parliament. Anybody, right now there are one or two reform people saying, "Oh yeah, let's shut the Parliament down," etc., etc. Well, now they've got a bunch of people in the Parliament. They're going to change their minds now because what do politicians want? They want the seats and power and money and all that sort of stuff, and they're starting to get it. But I think what they will do is they'll strip some of its powers if they win a UK election and we're still here. And I think most people in Scotland understand that that's kind of the direction that we're going in. Centralisation in London is the exact opposite of what is needed. And it's interesting because if you look at, I looked at an interview with Starmer from 2020, and he was just going on and on about how he, if he became Labour leader, was going to bring in federalism and more powers to all the parliaments, etc. Well, he's been Labour leader for a while. What's he done? He's supported the Brexit legislation that actually restricts the powers of the local parliaments of the UK single market. So basically, you can't trust a thing that they say. But I think if they take powers away from the Scottish Parliament, and the Scottish Parliament can no longer mitigate some of the damage that Westminster is doing to Scotland, it will be writ large for the Scottish people. But I think we'll be way before then. I do think we can be away in 2029. 2028, if John can force, and the other First Ministers can force a constitutional settlement that includes a referendum for Scotland.
Yeah, definitely. It's so encouraging, though, just seeing that the number of people engaging with Believe in Scotland activity, because you've got quite a range of different things that you've, that have been tried, all of which have perhaps appealed to different groups of people depending on their circumstances. So, Petition, somebody can sit there and do that at a desktop. A march, all you have to do is turn up on the day, and then days of action, perhaps a little bit more involved there. But, I think the more variety of ways that you try and engage people, the more you're going to pull in, which is great. And it feels different to me since the election of the new Parliament.
As I say, we're up nearly 7,000 new subscribers. I don't know how many actual paid members we're up, but that is up as well. And the activity on our social media in particular has gone through the roof. It's growing exponentially by millions a month. And, we're a nation of 5 million people. So if we've had 10 million views of our material so far, you've got to assume we know we're reaching outside of the yes bubble. Because the majority of the people who are signing our petition, for instance, are not people who are already following us on social media. So, we've got over 50%. So we're reaching out beyond. And that just means more and more people are actually learning about what we're doing, about the activities that are happening. So the next time we actually do a march and rally, we're hoping to get an extra couple of thousand people through this. But the other thing that we haven't told anybody about right now, but it's about to, in fact, it's just launched minutes before I joined this broadcast, is that we are creating a new set of internships aimed largely at young people. Paid internships, maybe 4 to 6 different people that we're going to take on a part-time basis, and that's called the Indie Campaign Internship, and we're hoping that it allows young people flexible hours, allows young people to get involved in helping to rebuild the local groups activities where it's not working perfectly right now, to create TikToks and Instagrams and videos, etc., aiming at young people, so targeting young people to get them involved in our movement again, because the demographic is gone and we haven't brought young people in. They support independence to a large extent, but they haven't been active to get them active. And also, so we're hoping to have maybe as many as 6 young interns working out of our office here in Glasgow and throughout the country, because there'll be local opportunities as well within a month or so. And we think that's going to change dramatically the amount of people that we're able to engage, the type of content we can put out there. And I can't, if I'm doing my Business for Scotland full-time job and my Believe in Scotland full-time job, and also trying to add in doing a lot of videos and things like that, although I love talking to you guys, etc. But it takes a lot of time to actually produce videos, etc. So now we've got a group of young people coming in and saying, right, we want to do this and we want to do that. And because we've mentioned it to a few people, we've already got loads and loads of young people writing to us going, we've heard about this. I'm thinking, how have they even heard about it?
Yeah, that's good.
So we're very excited about that next step. So, the campaign is growing and growing, and Believe in Scotland's at the absolute heart of that. People who want to apply for that, get their CVs, or if they don't have a CV, just write us a letter and say why they want to get involved, etc.
Send you a video, maybe, seeing we're now in the young people's world.
Don't give them too many hints.
Why are they writing you letters? They should send you a TikTok.
If somebody films and edits a video and sends it to us, yes, that would probably be quite a tick.
Well, we should apply. I think we need to apply, Fiona.
Well, you can. You're the TikTok queen. Marlene's got her own following on TikTok.
I think it's a really good move, and for all that, actually, I do have kind of grave doubts about the kind of adverse effects on human beings about having our attention span decrease because of the effects of social media, probably including mine, but probably I could put that down to age as well. But actually, despite that, you can have a big impact on these social media platforms, and like that clip that we showed with Al Cairns there, when he says suddenly Laura Kuenssberg finds herself with a guest who's saying Scotland could be independent by 2031, which I bet she wasn't expecting, and she didn't make any reference to it thereafter, which no surprise there. But I put that clip, a bit of a longer version, but I put that clip on our TikTok. And it's up at 112,000 views at the moment, even though we know that a view isn't necessarily everyone watching all of it. And it went on our Instagram and it got over 200,000 views. So, I mean, that's a lot. And if it could trickle out from there. So if you've got a really good team of folk doing that, Believe in Scotland, that's brilliant. And if they're young, that's fantastic, because it is they're the ones who are going to be living and running Scotland in 50 years' time, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah. In 10 seconds bursts, presumably, as their attention span lasts.
Social media is damaging democracy completely with its algorithms. It's you see young females moving left and young males moving right, which is actually causing birth rate drops right across the Western world, or anywhere that's got social media. I'm not kidding you. As soon as 4G came in, birth rates dropped, because young men are getting a different algorithm to young women. They're going in different directions and they can't talk to one another anymore. So social media has got all these benefits, but it's also got all these problems as well. And if we can refocus the economy and refocus the message on well-being, then we can actually still trigger people emotionally, but with positive emotions. And that's the key to this, to changing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, just watching the clips that have been coming out from the Tartan Army over in Boston, I mean, the difference there of that sort of positive, emotional, naked pride, and look how the rest of the world responds. Imagine how it's going to be when we've just voted yes. It's going to be.
I mean, never mind the rest of the world. I mean, I watched some of them and I'm immediately in tears. Actually, I just, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, look, that's us, and if only we had a bit more power behind it. But anyway,
there was a good video of a American cop doing some football ball juggling, and then when he finished, he done really well. Then a whole bunch of Tartan Army guys jumped on him and they're clapping him and hugging him and all that sort of stuff. I just want to say that 3 weeks earlier, if 12 drunk guys had jumped on that policeman, he'd have shot them.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so to even see the Americans being affected by this and being grabbed and dragged out of their culture into ours is really interesting.
Yes. And that point about they've donated $20,000 to some Rhode Island children's charity or something, and somebody had asked, an interview had asked the guy and said, why have you done that? And it's like, oh well, just a Scottish thing to do. We want to spread, give back. These people have been nice to us. And I thought, if you've got that in the middle of America where billionaires and trillionaires are running the show, that would just explode their little brains, because that's people doing something for just out of goodness, not to make a buck.
Exactly, and I mean, I've seen some responses to that bit of news, and it's Americans that live over in those communities, and they're in tears. So it's great.
And it's only going to grow and grow and grow because we're going to make it all the way to the final, obviously.
Obviously,
of course.
Against England.
Well, that would be good. Well, God, wouldn't that be good?
Let's not call that an official prediction, okay?
Let's not. Okay, that would be all of the world wearing Scottish flags, and some people down south wearing English flags. That would be great, wouldn't it? Going back to what we were talking about. What's next then? So the petition and that call for don't block our will of the Scottish people's going out, and as you said, had more of a response than you'd aimed for. So that's great. I mean, there are still plans for I think it's an independence convention and there's two things, isn't there? There's a citizens convention and an independence something else. Congress, that's right. So
Congress,
But where do those stand at the moment?
In terms of the Scottish Citizens Convention and IGERS, which is the redevelopment of GERS, to actually have a projection of what an independent Scotland would be published at the same time, which would, in our opinion, clearly show significant economic benefits of independence. If we, so we're still campaigning for those. We're still talking all the time. And I spent, I think it was Friday the 28th of last month, met with John Swinney and spent a couple of hours with him and representatives of Business for Scotland, Believe in Scotland, in a sort of Q&A that I was chairing. And as far as I can tell, everything's still up for negotiation, right? So, in terms of the SNP have their idea that they're going to be able to force a referendum by 2028. We think that the Citizens' Convention is preparation for that or preparation for a de facto. Either way, it doesn't matter. So we're aligned in that respect. So I think something along those lines has to happen. The question is, and also we were talking before about Ireland as well, that I think she's called Mary Lou McDonald, the leader of Sinn Féin in Ireland.
In Ireland,
just put has just put a bill yesterday to the dial at the Irish Parliament, saying that they're legally required now to prepare for unification. Which is interesting, because unification, believe it or not, and you're going to think I'm getting this wrong, unification is more popular in Northern Ireland than it is in the rest of Ireland. Now, that's mind-blowing for people like myself with Irish relatives who grew up during the Troubles.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
My uncle was a hotel manager and his hotel was bombed, so we knew all about it. Another set of cousins were on the other side, which is kind of like strange. Worked in prison warding. So basically we've got, I've got Irish and Protestant aunties and uncles who and nowadays it's just fascinating to actually see that it's almost I think it's about 60% of people in Northern Ireland would support reunification. And it's only in the high 50s in Ireland, which is just blows my mind. But the fact that they are saying that right now, that they're getting ready, and whilst being questioned about that, she still mentioned, like you said before, she mentioned Scotland and said Scotland needs to know as well. We've all got to get together. So this Celtic exit appears to be gathering pace, and it appears to be a real thing. They appear to be working together. So that's important. In terms of, so we're going to try and convince the Scottish Government to fund the Scottish Citizens Convention, because it needs to come from them. We're going to keep on pushing on the redoing of GERS. We're going to keep on championing wellbeing economics, because, what's the point in becoming an independent nation and not actually moving away from neoliberal capitalism?
Oh, totally.
Right? And socialism in its multiple forms of progressiveness and whatever else, etc., is last century's idea. If you actually take all the benefits of socialism and what benefits there are of capitalism, and there are many, and add them together, you can balance them out and you can come up with a well-being economic approach which would save the environment and save the economy and society, and you'd get growth in that as well. It'd just be good growth. It wouldn't be unequal growth.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're continuing to push for that. The Congress is a meeting that has been agreed. We're trying to find a date for it, just as we're trying to find a date for another march and rally before the end of the year as well. But the Congress would bring together the all elements of, so that the triumvirate, if you like, of pushing for independence. There's a political arm and there's a grassroots arm, and we lead the grassroots arm, and the SNP and the Greens are the political leaders. And if we're all aligned, then we're going to go and things will accelerate. And that's what the Congress is all about. But it's about also inviting every other group, whether they're aligned to us or affiliated to us or whatever, to get together in one huge Congress and actually sort out what the direction is. And I'm hoping to see progress on that in the near future. And so basically, I don't see a problem with either a referendum or a de facto referendum in 28 or 30. I can see those as targets that we can aim for now, but they're quite close. Yeah. And if we're going to stand, especially if we're going to stand in a de facto, we have to get working now, and that's why we're stepping up. That's why we're hiring these young interns. Why we are upping our activities. And the beauty of it is that if we can get enough of the yesers active, if we can get even 10% of those people that follow us active, we'll have enough people to run a campaign that's possibly even bigger than 2014. Yeah. Right? It's so many people sitting doing nothing. They've got to get involved, and more people are flocking to getting involved. Our rallies get bigger and bigger and better as well. But nobody, and I mean nobody, could put a march and rally on of the size we were doing in, say, 2015, 2016, because we lost momentum. And what we're all about is regaining that momentum, getting back on the front foot, working with the political parties, because there's no other way to do this. And there's no other way to deliver independence except through the Scottish people. The Scottish people have to want it. And as of right now, not enough of them do. So let's get talking, let's get spreading the news, and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
This would be the perfect intro to play that wee clip we've got about the 3.5% rule. This is an American professor whose research was a good few years ago now, but it holds true. It's Erica Chenoweth.
The 3.5% statistic is based on a historical observation of 323 mass movements between 1900 and 2006. An activist asked me if there was some kind of critical threshold above which no movements had failed in terms of mass participation. I looked at the data and found that among the campaigns we had documented and for which we had peak participation estimates, none of the campaigns that had moved above that 3.5% national population threshold had failed. It's a historical observation, not a prediction. Historical observations are not prescriptive, which is the sense that try to aim for 3.5%, knowing that's the target. Are we doing something different than what people did historically when they didn't know about that threshold and wouldn't have been trying to game it, as it were? We were talking about this, and we were talking to Wendy and Sean from All Under One Banner the other week, and I did a kind of quick. You know, at the time, I think we were saying 3%, not 3.5%. And I did a quick kind of calculation and came up with, well, that's only about 150,000 people in Scotland. If
it's the entire population, that would be 195, 196.
But, you know, even if it was, 200,000, that kind of sounds doable. It doesn't sound, totally completely kind of not possible.
And it just needs to be engaged in the process. They don't all have to be doing the same activity at the same time. And you look at some of the visuals from like Hungary recently, just before they overturned their government. You know, as far as the eye could see, there are people out in the square.
Yeah,
we can do that.
Yeah, and Albania just now, because they don't like what the Trump family are trying to do to their coastline.
Mm-hmm. But if you actually think about it, we had, I'm absolutely sure, more than 3.5% engaged in 2014. So, you know, I would say it's not necessarily prescriptive, but it's probably a fairly good indicator. But we started off nowhere in 2014 and got somewhere. We just didn't get across the line.
Yeah.
If we're starting off now at maybe 52, 53, 54%, then and we can activate the same amount of people, there's no way we lose, right? There's no way.
We loosened the lid of the jar in 2014, and now it just need to.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, I think.
Twist,
But what we're trying to do with our Scottish Citizens Convention isn't engage 150 or 200,000 people, it's engage 1 million people in a discussion about Scotland's future. So that convention would have meetings in every town and city in Scotland. There would be a massive online presence to it. Experts we were brought in to give the citizens who were chosen for the various panels and subject matters to and this is where it beats social media, because what you do is you bring in experts and experts then brief people, and they're expertly briefed, not social media briefed. So their opinions change. This is how you beat the cancerous effect of that social media algorithm, which is largely bought and paid for by the right, you know. And people, I used to say that, and then they all go, "Oh, I don't think the right buy the Twitter algorithm, etc." The right has now bought Twitter.
Yes.
You know, so I think I've been proven right on that. You know, and basically, if you want to save democracy, then it's not just a case of let's do some citizens' assemblies between now and a referendum. It's let's create a second house of citizens where the citizens revolve, if you like. New groups are brought in, etc., to look on every major issue should go through citizens' assemblies. Engage more and more people. We've got the tools now. Social media is an engagement tool, and we're allowing the right to use it. We're allowing big corporations to abuse us with adverts and targeting and listening to our conversations on our phones and then targeting adverts at us. Why don't we actually use the now enhanced human ability to engage electronically, to actually engage electronically around key issues and actually empower people to make decisions and give them the right information. So basically we will get, I don't know, 20% of the population active in designing a new Scotland. So basically forget 3.5, let's go for 20% is what we're saying.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, Singapore do it, Switzerland do it. There's various other countries who've got really advanced participation in just the day-to-day running of their countries, and this would be a fantastic start, wouldn't it, of the kind of country we want to be.
Very similar to what the Welsh government, when it was Labour and they were in a sort of informal alliance with Plaid Cymru, and they set up the Welsh Commission, and I mean those were some of the outcomes, and you draw people in. They were very, very creative and inventive about ways of drawing people in, and you give people good information, and then it's up to them to look at that and make their own mind up. And I kind of, I remember that at one point, because we had that conversation with Leanne Wood, the former Plaid Cymru leader, she sort of said, that's what you call a democratic revolution when you do that. You have to get in there at the grassroots. It involves a lot of work, involves a lot of people, takes time, but you can do it. So I suppose what's in my mind is they took 2 years to do that. Are we going to, when are we going to get going?
Well, my plan was that it should be starting now.
Right.
And I will be putting a lot of pressure on the Scottish government to actually get behind this idea and move it now. But, let's be honest, we're not saying these are our ideas, you must do them. What we're saying is, these are our ideas, this is what they'll generate. You can't argue with that. Everyone looks at it and goes, yeah, that's a great idea. Either back this or come up with something better.
Yeah.
Because if you can come up with something better, we will drop our ideas. We're not precious about it, right? But the thing is, the Scottish government has to run a country. And every single day, every single one of those ministers wakes up and turns on their phone with dread to find out if they're in the news because of something they've said or done, etc., etc. It drains their energy away from independence campaigning. And it's all we do. It's all we focus on. Right, so there's 5 of us right now. We're hoping to get another 6 people in, and then there's, I don't know how to actually describe the size of our following online. It's in the hundreds of thousands, probably about 400,000 across all platforms, because we've actually got quite a few platforms that aren't called Believe in Scotland that have got 100,000 followers, etc. And so basically, we've got this ability to reach out to people, and we know that if we can get a positive message in front of them, they will reactivate, and that's basically what it's got to be all about. So if we can convince the Scottish Government to go down this route, we'll be able to pull in people from all across Scottish society, civic society, all the different political parties will have their say, because it won't be an independence convention. It'll be about Scotland's future. Yeah. And that, for me, is key. Although the Welsh one did consider all the different constitutional arrangements, we're not going to look at constitutional arrangements. We're going to say, what sort of Scotland do we want? And the reason we want to do it that way, and I think the SNP want to make it more of a constitutional one, I think constitutional conventions are boring. I'd rather talk about our hopes and dreams for Scotland, right? And then having designed a better Scotland, and everybody goes, 20% of the population is involved in this, and then we make a major go of publishing it, telling everybody about it, and everybody goes, yeah, I'd like to live in that country. Okay, how do we make it happen? Well, there's no way to make it happen with the Union, Devo Max, or federalism. It's going to have to be independence. And everyone's going to go, so that's what independence is all about. Why didn't you tell us that in the first place? That's literally what will happen, in my view. And the conversation I have with people, I have seen donors to Better Together who are saying, I donated £20,000 to Better Together. One guy said about 4 or 5 years ago. All right, why'd you do that? And I explained my vision, and he actually said those exact words to me. He said, well, why didn't you tell us that's what it was all about? I'd vote for that. We have to accept that the political policy booklet approach to explaining what independence is all about has not penetrated people's consciousness, and therefore we need a citizens' convention to do that. But democracy has to evolve, or it will die in the social media age. This is about the evolution of democracy as much as it is independence.
Indeed.
It has to be jointly created as well. It's not just bang, here's a leaflet. It's what do you think? It's exactly what we should be doing. So
people don't want to be messaged. They want to be engaged. Exactly.
Yeah, and real people, not bot paid for by who knows who. So absolutely with you on that one. It sounds great.
Yes, it does.
Looking forward to it.
Let's hope so. Let's hope we can make it happen.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Pleasure as
Thank
always.
you. Absolutely. Love talking to you guys, and I will see you soon. Have a good trip.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to make sure you're following us and subscribe to us, then you get notified every time we put something new out, so you don't miss anything. That would be great. Also, you can click the little bell if you're watching on YouTube.
And sign up for our mailing list. You can do that from the website, and we always send one out at the beginning of each month to tell you what's happening. Last but not least, you can buy us a coffee on coffee.com.